Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Miscellaneous Gab and today we're here to discuss Severance Season 2, Episode 3. Oh my god, what a crazy episode. I just need somebody to sever me until we get to Episode 4. I feel like there were definitely more questions than answers this episode. I feel like they are so close to paying off. So let's get into it. We're going to review the episode. Before we begin, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel for updates. If you couldn't tell, we actually have more of a purple vibe going on today. We have started to see way more purple in the show. We start the episode with Harmony Cobel out in the middle of nowhere, sleeping in her car in the frigid wastelands of wherever they are. Now, I'm starting to really think that this town, this area is the land of perpetual winter. I mentioned in my last video that in the new intro sequence, we see baby Kier walking around with frost falling on him. I'm really starting to think that maybe they're just somewhere that is always winter, or they have some sort of weird weather control going on. I guess it's safe to say that at this point, she's not taking her promotion. She does have her Kier Shrine breathing tube, which seems really important to her. It has the name Charlotte Cobel on it. If this is her mother, this is somebody who clearly was sick. She flips on some rock music and drives away. The scene then melts into a check-in with Audi Mark gazing at his watch. I was so excited about this, especially since I did discuss my theory on time in the last episode, thinking that time must move differently on the severed floor, which is why the Audis have to change over their watches before they come in, and that's why we see time move so strangely down there. So at first I think that he's trying to sneak his watch down with him or something like that, but then we just see that Mark is trying to time the amount of time it takes from his car to the elevator. Both Innie and Audi Mark spend this episode executing a rather elementary and half-formed plan, knowing that it's the only plan that they've got. Innie Mark somehow thinks that hanging hand-drawn posters of Miss Casey around Lumon is the solution. Granted, I know he doesn't have that many options and he really is desperate to help her. How does he not think that Lumon would put a stop to it? When Helena / Helly, more on that later, talks like, what's your plan? His plan is pretty decent. He's going to take Miss Casey to the stairwell and then he says, quote, my Audi will know what to do. Similarly, Audi, Mark, and Devin think burning a message into his retinas will somehow communicate the question to his Innie, who is alive for confirmation. Ragabi later on asks Mark how he plans on sending a message back. It seems like both Audi and Innie Mark are relying on one another to help make this plan happen without really knowing each other. Speaking of Mark's plan, Dylan seems totally uninterested in helping them. This is a far cry from the Dylan who sacrificed himself to help his friends with the OTC. Irving is charged with bringing the poster of Miss Casey to O&D. This clearly is haunting him. He is not ready to return since the last time he went there was during Bert's retirement party. Helena / Helly comes and gives him this very heartfelt hand grab, and we see from Irving's face that he's a bit taken aback by it as well. Perhaps it feels a bit forced. Perhaps this doesn't really feel like Helly. Whoa, okay, what's going on here? And then he says thank you and carries on with his day. I believe this is another reason as to why it's Helena versus Helly, but I think they want to keep it vague. I know the internet is very divided on who is actually down there on the severed floor. The actress does a fantastic job keeping us guessing. The awkward almost kiss / not kiss scene pretty much sealed the deal for me. The last time they kissed, Helly went for it. She cracked a joke. She dove in first. This time, Helly is awkward. She's uncertain. It feels very middle school. Mark recognizes some of this timidity coming from her, which is why he asked if she's okay with helping him in the first place. Helly in season 1 was very much at the forefront of creating the plans, of sowing this feeling of rebellion amongst the Innies. It wasn't really until the end of the season / beginning of this season that Innie Mark is actually becoming rebellious as well. Meanwhile, we check in with Milchick, who looks like he's going through it. He spent all last episode motorcycling around the frigid wasteland town and delivering pineapples, kissing people's butts, trying to get them back to work. He walks into his office to find an ever creepy Natalie, who says that the board is, quote, jubilant at your ascendance. This is just another slightly dated phrase way of saying things. jubilant at your ascendance lends credence to the theory that the board is not an actual conglomerate of living people, but perhaps the uploaded cloud consciousness of previous Lumen CEOs, deceased members of the Kier family whose brain waves are still hanging out there in the ether, saying what they said 100 years ago. Let's talk about Natalie for a second. If I were to say, like, in the future, when AI is so good, but not 100% there, what does that look like? I would say it's Natalie. She really feels like an AI robot to me. It's the way her mechanisms, her expressions turn on, the way they turn off. Either that or she has just had some fantastic PR training and there's something deeper and darker going on with her. Close up on her facial expressions, we almost see this like twitch in her lips, in her eyes, as if she wants to say something else, or even as if she's about to cry, like she's holding something in. Or maybe it's a glitch in her Siri AI. In honor of their jubilance at Milchick's ascendance, they're going to offer him an inclusive canonicalized version of all the Kier portraits. Only Kier is a black man with blue eyes. Don't forget the blue eyes. And the goal here is for Milchick to be able to see himself as part of the founding story, as part of the vision by making Kier black. Though at first he seems grateful, his face is very hard to understand. It would seem that repainting all of these Kier portraits as a black man, but with the blue eyes, they're basically saying like, hey, we know that you're different. We see that you're different. We see color. Natalie, at the behest of the board, says, Natalie, also received these paintings. Natalie looks to be a bit lighter skinned, maybe even mixed race. And I think that is an important thing there, that the Kier family, the board, these Egans of Christmas past see anybody as other, different race, as other. In my opinion, I know we don't get a good read on Milchick, but it feels like it dissolves the charade a little bit, that he has really bought into the mission. And you'd think that someone as devoted and rule following as Milchick would just be included in the cool kids club without being like, hey, by the way, like, we know that you're still black. And this is our weird, tone deaf, out of touch approach way of making you feel included by really putting a spotlight in the difference between you and I. Later, he actually puts the photos away. Maybe feels wrong to him and he doesn't know why. He does seem like a hellbent rule follower of Lumen, of the Kier cult. Perhaps he feels this like gut feeling of, ooh, this does not feel good. I need to unpack it, but I really don't like looking at this picture. It kind of repulses me. And perhaps that is the impetus of something that Milchick will be learning about himself later. Maybe Milchick will dance a tune of defiant jazz himself. Let's talk about Dylan. So I already mentioned that Dylan is not seemingly interested in helping his friends with his various plans. He doesn't want to hang up posters of Miss Casey. He doesn't want to accompany Irving to find the elevator and the hallway. Miss Huang escorts him to the security office. And my biggest question is, from the OTC being triggered to that Monday morning where Mark goes and meets the off-brand innies, that it's been 48 hours. We also see Mark coming and going for about 2 to 3 days. Then they bring all the crew back together. And we have to think that this is at least the next day or the day after. Not that much time has passed. I would say it's about within the same week of the OTC being triggered. How did they get this room renovated so fast? How? Unless they truly are on a different floor. Maybe they're going to a different floor. That and the claymation video, they are on top of their shit, their productivity at Lumen. Maybe that's why they make doors in-house. The fucking hubris. Dylan asked if everything is, quote, chill. You can tell he's hung up on 2 things. 1, whether he'll be in trouble, and 2, why the fuck Miss Wong is a child. We find out that he's treated to a session with his wife. Now, I always thought this was going to be this dangling carrot stick of, if you're good, this is what you'll get. This is actually kind of a notch above the waffle party. I was surprised to see Dylan get this right away, but I loved this scene. I love the person that they casted to play his wife, Gretchen, and I cannot get over the first thing he pretty much says to her when they sit down is, quote unquote, nice sack. Nice sack. Upon seeing her, it's delightfully awkward, but he seems so happy and jubilant, to borrow the board's term, to see his wife. She then mentions that it's been hard for her husband to hold down a job. Dylan seems very interested in this. He says, what is he, a dick? What's he, like a loser? In the first season, he imagines his Audi as someone who does like muscle contests, bodybuilding contests, and seeing that slight disappointment on his wife's face, he who's like the star of the show, the one always meeting quota, he almost can't believe that his Audi might be a fuck up. And this strengthens his resolve to do good. Later in the episode, we check in with Audi Dylan, which I love. We see that she actually works a night job, maybe as some sort of security guard or officer or something like that, but she's not home at night. He's not home during the day. That might put a strain on their relationship. It seems like maybe they're struggling to make ends meet. We also get the idea that Audi Dylan indeed maybe struggles to have his shit together. It seems like she has to tell him and remind him how to make cookies from a tube. Maybe she'll fall in love with the innie. Maybe she'll keep visiting him. Maybe this increases her desperation to merge the two Dylans together. Now we need to talk about the goat scene. So the goats have appeared in and out, constant motif, both on the nose, both subtly, right? So we've seen the goats. We saw the man feeding the baby goat last season. We also see goats in these old portraits of Keir. Perhaps the goats represents one of the tempers. Additionally, we see people dressing up as goats during the waffle party, that erotic dance scene. We also see a goat's head in Devin and Ricken's house. Goats have been symbols of many things throughout history, including strength as well as fertility and lust. They've also been associated with wealth, abundance, and determination. In Christianity, goats are seen as symbols of Christ. But at the same time, goats are seen as evil sometimes, like hedonistic symbols, the Old Testament of the Bible, as oppressive, evil, wickedness. In the Middle Ages, goats were even seen as the embodiment of Satan. So I think there's a lot going on here with the goats. At first glance, you would think, okay, they're running some sort of experiments on the goats before they try it on the humans. Maybe it's as simple as that, but maybe it represents something else. Let me know in the comments what you think about the goats. Mark and Helly go down a strange tiny hallway that mirrors the halls of Lumon. They go on to a full goat pasture. At first, when I saw the goat man just kind of blending in with the goats, I thought that was another security guard, like a Mr. Drummond type guy who's literally like just sitting there in full goat regalia in case they came in. Then we meet Lauren, played by Gwendolyn Christie. She looks like she's been through some shit. The first thing she says is, "Are you here to kill me?" She seems very suspicious of Mark and Helly, and we understand why. In the last season, we saw that artwork was used as a form of propaganda to sow distrust and uncertainty among the innies. We can only guess that other departments maybe think that other severed departments are actually murderous and evil and coming for them, and maybe that's why she is so quick to call over her weird friends. She even says, we don't really partake in wellness other than like, we're above that, we're rough. You need to take that piece of paper and get the F out of here. When Mark persists, she calls her friends over who are all very rough around the edges. Now, at first, I didn't know if these were severed employees, if these are some sort of mutant science experiments, or if that's just what life with the goats has you do. But then the guy says that he had a wellness session when Mark says, this is an innie problem. This isn't about my department, your department. This is an innie problem. The true proletariat. They are like, you know what? Fucking right, dog. And we got your back. We won't tell Milchick on you. Maybe Lumon keeps these people apart so that they don't realize that exact thing. Like, we are stronger together, strength in numbers. Now they leave in a peaceful way, but that's not before the goat people ask to see Mark and Helly's bellies, indicating that they don't have pouches, and someone says that means nothing. So maybe this furthers the thought that these people are some sort of mutants, or they've been told this whole time that the people in MDR are mutants, marsupials or something, or they have pouches for bellies. Or they're just saying that MDR is in better physical shape and health and they don't have like a pouch, like a belly pouch. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Irving goes to O&D and he's haunted by the ghost of Bert. He meets Felicia and the two of them exchange stories about Bert and truly how fond of Irving Bert was. This feels painful and sad. The conversation is completely identical to one you might have over a lost friend or loved one. I remember this about them. Irving shows all these portraits of Bert that he's created where he says he's drawn one every day. She keeps looking through his diary, which like, come on, girl. That's like diary 101. You don't look through someone's diary. She sees that drawing of the hallway and says, oh, I recognize that. That's for exports, that they used to bring a lot of shipments there, but now somebody else does this. Irving asks her if she can show him. The scene ends, but I think this will start to give us more answers on what is there and maybe bring Irving closer to this mystery. Natalie visits Ricken, entering his heart by stroking his ego, reading a part of his book and talking about how profound it is, and he is just lapping it up. He is dialed in. Anyone who tells this motherfucker that his book is good, he is sat. He is sat right down. Devin walks in and looks pissed. I get more AI vibes from Natalie again, and we get to the ask here that Natalie wants Ricken to write any specific book. Now we need to talk about one of these culminating scenes between Helena and Miss Cobel. Miss Cobel eventually turns around, comes and kind of corners Helena as she's leaving for the day. It seems like the parking lot is quite empty, that Helena has stayed late. I do wonder that for someone, even her becoming Helly in the first place, for someone who is a CEO in training, a very important part of this company, you'd think that like doing menial labor from 9 to 5, like your brain and your presence would need to be used elsewhere. I would think that maybe Helly R would only go to work a couple times a week just for the optics and the experiment, because homegirl must need to work a lot in order to do her baby CEO duties, unless Lumon is able to control time. Miss Cobel demands to be let back onto the severed floor, firing Milchick because he's not equipped to handle it, and really talks about how the success is all because of her. Helena stops her right there in her very calm, cool, and collected way, says, I hear ego, hubris, arrogance. Here teaches us that they only cause pain. Miss Cobel doesn't back down though. She uses some more Kier speak. I showed industry. I did all this. It was all because of my accomplishments. I earned it. I wasn't born into it. Definitely a shot at Helena. There are some theories out there, including some comments on my last YouTube video, that maybe Helena and Miss Cobel are related somehow. They both have these like fiery tempers. And then there are others out there who think that Miss Cobel might be a bastard daughter of a Egan family member. Maybe she is the bastard daughter of James Egan. I don't know how the age works out there. I'm really bad at guessing age. Maybe she and Helly are weird half sisters. She can either be on your side or against you, and it's clear Helena recognizes like we can't have her on her bad side. Helena offers to drum up the board, which I guess is just available at a moment's notice. Maybe it's because AI Natalie is the only one who can actually connect with them because their consciousnesses are in the cloud. You tell me, what do you think? Miss Cobel seems kind of cajoled, and she's going to go along with it until the camera focuses in on this very creepy driver, personal security guard, secret service, whatever. She makes haste and runs away. Helena doesn't really do anything, almost like she's like, oh yeah, I know that if you keep causing problems, we will disappear you, so you might as well disappear yourself. Mark is trying to burn a message into his retinas. Ragabi catches up with him, kind of scares the shit out of him. She comes on full force, intense. She insists that the only successful way to get a message to your innie is reintegration. I wonder if Ragabi was indeed the person that Irving was talking to on the payphone last episode. He did say, I know you don't want to talk to me, but my innie got the message. Maybe Ragabi has been hounding Irving to try to reintegrate him, and he says no. He thinks that there are other ways to get messages to his innie, such as painting the same thing over and over, depriving himself of sleep, and is going against this idea that the only way to reintegrate is this very sketchy basement MacGyvered scientific brain experiment thing. Once she confirms that Gemma was alive the last time she saw her, Mark doesn't need to hear a single thing. He's like, let us go, let's do it. Give it to me right now, right here, right now. I'm ready. Mark is dialed in, fully convinced to undergo reintegration. Now, the only thing that pissed me off here is then Mark has the upper hand. Why didn't he ask some follow-up questions? Ragabi clearly knows. So why didn't Mark say like, in what capacity? Was she in a coma? How did they get the body? You know what? I will do this if you give me like 3 more nuggets of information. But I know, we can't know. That's the big mystery. But I think he's so blinded by the fact that he could see his wife again that he's like, I'm ready. She says she's gotten better at the procedure since PD, but how many people has she reintegrated since PD? Or is she just saying that? We know it didn't go very well last time. The wires she puts on Mark's head represents the different brain waves, the 5 different brain waves. It seems like she's trying to merge these 2 halves of Mark together with some sort of waves, salt crystals, whatever. Last video I did, I mentioned that I wonder if the macro data refiners are sorting the numbers into different tempers, bring that balance, that semblance into who somebody is. Very similar to science before psychology and modern medicine came in. There were these 4 temperaments, and scientists thought that an imbalance of one of them or an overabundance of one of them could make somebody mentally unwell. And maybe it is sorting those numbers into the 4 tempers to kind of balance everything out, reintegrate. But another thought here is maybe the numbers represent the different brain waves, and they're trying to recreate, recalibrate the brain function of someone like Miss Casey, who maybe was on the verge of death, was put into a coma. Her flesh, her biology has been reanimated, but it's that consciousness, that missing component. And that is Operation Cold Harbor. And that is what they have to do to be able to take the consciousnesses that are maybe preserved in the cloud and the board and bring them back into a body, maybe a child's body like Miss Huang, so that Kier can live again. This process is really not legit. Very sketchy. She's like punching the machines, trying to get them to work. Eventually we see Mark stop remembering things about Audi Mark. And we see this flash. Now, at first when I saw this, I mean, I was pumped regardless, but when I first saw the flashes of Mark kind of going in and out of these different people, I thought there were like several different outfits with him on the table. Holy shit, he's been reintegrated before, or he's been like severed or reprocessed. There've been so many different times where he's woken up. But then when I watched, it was just flipping between like an outside outfit and a suit. We end the episode here thinking that reintegration has been successful. Just so freaking excited. So freaking excited. So do you think the reintegration worked? What is going on? If we have Helena in there, Audi Mark in there, we don't know what's going on with Irving. Everything is coming together. It's such a cliffhanger. This episode was so good. What did you think of the episode? Let me know in the comments. Let's chat in the comments over the next kind of 5 days before we get to that next episode. Thank you guys so much for your support. I have had so much fun making these episode by episode recaps. I said I wasn't going to do it, but you guys convinced me otherwise. And I just feel so grateful that of all the channels out there, you've watched my videos. I'm actually thinking of making another video with all of your guys' theories in it where we discuss it. So let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing in these interim days before the next episode. Until then, have fun, stay productive at work, don't get severed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.